Good afternoon. Welcome to the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust May 20th, 2025 meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. Item 2 on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the April 22nd meeting. We can take a motion. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. The item passes. Item 3 on the agenda is the ratification of claims for April of 2025. We have a motion and a second. The item passes. Brings us to items for individual consideration. Item 4A is a joint resolution for the Myriad Gardens Foundation's annual management fee and annual public support. Ms. McSpadden.
Yes, good afternoon. Joanna McSpadden with the Finance Department. Our agenda is full of annual contracts today, so I'll just kind of give you guys the highlights on those. So the first one is our annual funding resolution for the Myriad Gardens. So this is funded through a transfer from the city's general fund each year, and then we have $205,000 in fund balance that's supporting carryover capital projects. So that's what makes up the total budget for this. You'll notice that the operating budget on the second page of the memo is $2.4 million. That's a 5% decrease from last year. So we worked with Myriad and Scissortail to really hone in on their budget this year, and we saw some decreases, which will be great for the general fund.
Great.
Also point you out to the table at the bottom that shows the city share of the budget. We have a goal to get down to 30%, in the range of 30% there, and you can see that we're headed towards that goal this year.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair. Joanne, you had mentioned a 5% decrease from their overall operating budget.
From 25.
From 25, yeah, year over year.
Yeah.
And I see in the notes about $500,000 for improvements.
Capital.
Is that what we had previously approved, or is that a new
Our
item?
capital budget last year, I didn't write the number down, it was in the 300,000 range.
Okay.
So this is a little higher, and that would be the difference of that carryover. So
Okay.
each year we have a list of approved capital projects, and if they don't get them done, we are able to carry over that funding to add the project to the next year. And I will say that their executive director left mid-year last year, and some things kind of just halted during that process. And so they have a new executive director. She was hired a couple of months ago, and so I expect that they will
Get that work complete.
Yeah, get
Okay.
these done this year. So
Okay.
I hope. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Anything else? All right. We can go ahead and take a motion. We have a motion and a second. The item passes. Item 4B is the joint resolution for the Scissortail Park Foundation annual management fee and capital fund support. Ms. McSpadden.
Same as Myriad, this is funded by a transfer from the general fund. We don't have any carryover capital this year. If you look at their operating budget this year of about $5.2 million, that's also a 5% decrease from FY25. And you can see this is a newer facility, so we're in the 60% range of the share of cost, but we're certainly on a downward trajectory. So happy to answer questions.
Any questions? All right, if not, we can take a motion. Motion and a second. The item passes. Item 4C is a joint resolution for the First Americans Museum Foundation's annual operations fee.
So this $4 million is fully funded from a general fund transfer. The $4 million is flat from last year. We met with the FAM, and they have a lot of unknowns this year. Okana just opened. They've got their Discovery Center that will be opening here in a couple months. They're reopening their restaurant, and so there's a lot of question marks about how their operations will go this year. So we left their budget flat. I can say, if we're looking at the percentage, which we don't have the table here, but last year in FY25 we funded 46% of their total budget. This year we're funding 39%. So we are kind of on a downward trend there, and we will have sort of the same goal for them that I've talked with them about. So happy to answer questions on that one.
I would think that Okana is going to have a fantastic
It has to.
impact there.
Yeah, it definitely will.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, we can take a motion. We have a motion and a second. Item 4C passes. Item 4D is a professional services agreement with the Oklahoma City Economic Development Foundation Incorporated for community and economic development services.
So this is our contract with the chamber for their base services. Their base of 1.2 million is flat from last year. We did not increase that one this year. That's funded mostly from the general fund. There's about 90,000 that's funded by GOLT to supplement that. The SIP administration, the 25,000, that's also flat. That's a $2,500 fee that we pay for each job creation project that comes to the board for approval. So as they handhold those projects through, we pay them that fee. That's fully funded by GOLT. Additional services did go up this year. It was 100,000 last year. That's funded by general fund, but it's only used as needed. So the thought was if we have some individual projects to fund, we would increase that and be able to use it on an as-needed basis. And then the funding sources down there are listed. It's funded by general fund and GOLT. So happy to answer questions if you have any.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Joanne, so this does not include the film office, which
No, it does not. That's correct.
That's $750,000. So what are the additional services? What could that?
So additional services, this last year we used that for the strategic planning process that the chamber did. It's various projects, so it kind of varies. We've done surveys, we've done special projects. We did that strategic plan last year. It's just kind of ad hoc things that are over and above their base service. Typically, it's us contracting with somebody to perform some sort of additional service above the chamber's base service they provide.
Okay. And our contribution makes up how much of their overall operating agreement?
I do not
Or
know
operating budget?
I do not know the answer to that, but I can find out.
Okay, I would like to find out that first.
Okay.
Yeah. That would be
You want to
good.
find out that before we approve
Yes.
the contract?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yep.
will find that out.
Thank you.
We need a motion to defer it.
Yeah. Would you like to make a motion to?
Defer the item? Yes. Could I make a motion to defer the item? I would like to make a motion.
Just tonight.
Yes.
We have a motion.
Can I add something before you all vote if you haven't voted yet on this one?
Yes.
So I do want to explain that this is different than the Myriad, Scissortail, and FAM situation. Those are facilities that are owned by the city.
Yeah.
And so we are assisting in funding their operation. The Chamber and the Alliance that'll come next, those are service contracts that we are paying. And so I have never collected like their overall budget for their office and their services that they provide to others. So I'm not sure how relevant it would be. I think the fact that we're keeping that budget flat this year definitely says something, that base contract. So they're performing the same services that they have, and they're not increasing our fee for that service.
Okay.
I'm just questioning whether that overall budget is something that, they're a foundation. They're not contracted to us to perform a service for a facility. And so I'm questioning whether I can probably even get all of that information from them. I'm happy to ask it and
Yes.
see if I can talk with them about
Okay.
it. I just wanted to say that this is definitely kind of a different deal than those other three that we just talked about.
Right, so it's not apples to apples. Thank you
It's
for that
definitely not
context.
that.
That's
Yeah.
helpful. I would like to know, have a better picture of the different sources of funding and if we're making up 80%, 90%.
I
And
just,
while you say that
I
it's relatively flat compared to year over year, the additional services jump of $150,000 seems quite significant to me, so.
Yeah,
Joanna, on the other services though, those are not spent unless they're
Right.
requested,
they're,
correct?
yeah,
So,
only as needed.
yeah, I think
so
both the
those-
Alliance and the Chamber have some provisions in that, but it's something that the city has to approve for something special beyond the normal scope. So one example would be if there's a special study that's been done, or like an example with the Alliance in this last year, in the middle of the year, we were asked to help facilitate some of the air service grants to do the recruitment on the airlines, the direct flights to Cancun. So there's a whole bunch of legal work and other work that had to be done that went through our office. I think there's probably some past examples on that. The chamber is a much larger organization that's, my understanding is they're typically, the majority of their stuff's funded by their memberships and other sources. If you kind of think about it, in my mind, this is more, Oklahoma City has a partially contracted economic development office and an in-house economic development office. The in-house is Joanna and Aaron and Sarah. The contracted piece is the Alliance and the Chamber, each that have a different set of scope of services. They've got, the Chamber has economists, they've got folks that go out and do all the recruitment, travel around. In fact, I just got back last night at midnight from doing some recruitment efforts with the Chamber last night. And it's really, they have a whole team that's staffed, and that's really what this contract's funding, those efforts. They help us with the SIP program. They maintain a financial model that they run all that stuff through because Joanna nor my office has that ability or those, skills. But I would say primarily they're the entity that would go out and do the initial recruitment and things. The Alliance helps with all putting the deals together and taking it through the bureaucratic process, the different public trusts and those sorts of things. And then the Alliance does some different things in that we do a lot of the actual building development, and we maintain some things like the TIF program and things that are different than the Chamber that's doing the SIP program and film and other things like that. So if that kind of helps to
I'm very familiar
put
with
all the pieces together.
No, I know. I've worked with, obviously, within the Alliance and with the Chamber. So I'm very familiar with the scope of work and the focus and
Yeah.
how that relates to the city. Very familiar with that. Something that you said was, we're assuming that most of their funding is made up of memberships, but we don't have the data today, from what I'm hearing, because that's not usually a question that you're probably getting to
Yeah.
break down where
Yeah.
their sources of funding are coming from and what our contribution is to that. So as someone that's just like in finance and budgeting, that's something that I'm curious about and would like to know. Yeah.
Okay. I'll see if I can find that out.
I had a quick question as well.
Go ahead.
On this one, is it for services that have already been completed or that will be happening?
This is services for fiscal '26.
Okay,
So it's
20
still-
for next year.
Just wanted to clarify. So then that won't delay if we defer to the next month, and won't delay any services at the moment or any potential existing contracts?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, Mariana, you were wanting to get clarification on what again, just to make sure I fully got that part?
Yeah, so we talk about an operating budget, we look at sources of funding and we break that down from, anyone that's made a budget, you look at the various sources, government, private, from foundations, city government, what are the sources of funding and what percentage, like does 50% come from the city and then 20% from private sources and 30% from earned income? I don't know that. So I would like to have that information, just be better informed moving forward.
The full budget of this particular item?
Entity, yeah, entity, yeah.
Okay.
So this won't create any issues if we defer this on?
So if we defer it to our June 17th meeting, it would appear on the council July 1. So we wouldn't have to have any retro language added to it, provided that it's approved at that point.
I just want to provide a point of clarification too, that this is a professional services agreement. So this is a scope of work that we're paying for. It's not their operating budget.
So, but the services that we're talking about, so under a professional services agreement, going back to what Kenny said, they're providing services to the city. They're acting in part on behalf of the city for the economic development arm. So I am interested in, again, how this professional services agreement kind of wraps into their full operating budget. Yeah.
Are you wanting, just to make sure we're clear, are you wanting to get for their economic development office and that budget and those pieces? Because
Yes.
there's a whole lot more they do. Like they
Yeah, they,
run the CVB, they do a lot of tourism, they do a lot of retail
yes,
stuff, they do a lot
yes.
of member services for their membership, other workforce development, other things like that that are really not
privy to.
stuff that we do.
Yeah, yeah. So I
okay.
would want to focus in on the economic development
Okay.
piece. But I can work with you, Joanne, and clarify. Yeah.
And what was the item again that went up 150, I think?
Their additional services, so that's
Additional
their
services.
as-needed piece went from 100 to 250.
And those would still be services initiated by us,
Correct.
not just them coming up with random things to bill us for.
Yeah, we have to approve those.
Right.
Yep.
So we need a second.
Yeah, we need a second. We have a motion to defer. And we have a second. Please vote. And the item is deferred. Item 4E is a joint resolution for the annual professional service fee for the Alliance for Economic Development.
So this is the professional contract for the Alliance. Two things to point out here. We did have some adjustments to their scope of work this year. We clarified some things further that were a little bit ambiguous, and we added a few things that the Alliance has been working on, such as MAPS 4 and some other things like that. That's in that last paragraph on the memo that you can read. Secondly, the funding has been adjusted. We've reduced additional services, which is a savings to the general fund, and we've increased the base, which is funded by TIF and Gold. So we've just done a swap there to put more of the contract cost onto TIF and Gold, which I feel is more appropriate based on what Kenny's team does. Happy to answer questions.
Any questions? Comments?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Joanne, you had described previously if it was flat, if it's an increase, can you provide that color
Oh,
around
yes,
this
sorry.
one?
Their base contract was increased by 3%.
By 3%?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other comments? If not, we can take a motion. We have a motion and a second. And it passes. Item 4F, resolution approving the annual disbursement of MAPS Investment Trust operating funds to Oklahoma City Innovation District.
Yeah, so this contract is funded from the MAPS Investment Trust. As you know, with our MAPS 4 projects, we had an operating investment trust that we set up. This is the second installment of that for the Innovation Hall. Last year, we funded about $160,000. This will just go up as that investment grows. Happy to answer questions here.
Any questions?
Joanne, can you just clarify, just looking at the language on like the other ones where it said fiscal year, what sort of schedule? This isn't a one-time investment based on what you just said?
This is
so-
an annual distribution for them, so
Okay.
they will have, this funding will be available for them on July 1. I don't have a copy of the agreement, I just have a copy of the memo. I can clarify that for you. I'll go back and read the agreement and just see how it's worded, but it's an annual payment to support their
And
annual
just as a reminder,
operations.
this is one of the projects that was specifically called out in the MAPS 4 resolution. There were funds put into the investment trust,
Yes.
Yeah.
and this would represent the portion of the earnings that are allocated to this particular project each year.
Yes,
And calculated annually?
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
It's a formulaic calculation.
But
Yeah.
subject to, I mean, the city still has to approve it. I think, for
Right.
example, last year, there were things that were, less was allocated because the portfolio hadn't done as well, so the city made the choice to kind of reduce that. But this is kind of getting more towards the normal-ish level where this would be going forward.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? No, we can take a motion. A motion and a second. And the item passes. Item 4G is amendment number 3 and restated audit contract with Allen Gibbs and Bullock to include audit services.
Yeah, so this is our annual audit contract. It is written as an amendment. I asked this question because I wanted to know too. Their contract was a 3-year contract and it ended 2 years ago. But since we are in the midst of a financial conversion for our systems, we didn't want to switch auditors. So we've been amending this contract so that we can stay with the same auditor while we're going through that process. So that's why this is written as an amendment.
Any questions? All right, we can take a motion. We have a motion and a second. The item's passed. Brings us to item 4H. It's to receive the Oklahoma City Economic Development Foundation fiscal year 2025 third quarter reports. Aaron Long.
Hi. Eric Long, research economist for the economic development team at the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber. Christy Gillenwater and Dennis Pruitt, our new VP of Economic Development, they are at ICSC conference today, recruiting destination retailers to expand the tax base of Oklahoma City. So in their absence, I will deliver the report today. This quarter has seen a continued steady increase activity surrounding economic growth opportunities. Just like to highlight a few of the Chamber's work in those items. 2 project wins were announced. One was Equipment Share. It's a construction rental dealer located in Oklahoma City that's adding to their local footprint in a new facility that will house their technology fleet tracking department and will serve as an R&D office. That company will be bringing 20 new jobs and a capital investment of over $3.5 million. Nintex, a software automation firm out of Seattle, Washington, has elected to open an Oklahoma City office focused on software solutions and sales. They will be employing nearly 50 people with an average wage of over $125,000. The team has hosted 8 in-market visits this past quarter across multiple industries, aerospace, battery, technology, manufacturing, bioscience, and manufacturing sectors. That is a slight uptick that we've seen this quarter over prior quarters. Oftentimes the first part of the year, especially coming out of a presidential election year, you'll see a lot of slowdown in activity, but then they're ramping up once uncertainty has been removed. The department has engaged in multiple consultant community engagement events, annual networking event at Hotel Zaza in Dallas. That's a key event with site selectors, more than 40 site selectors convene on Dallas, in which we're able to market the city of Oklahoma City. Site Selection Guild Conference is one of the top events that brings 50 site selection firms, consultants from around the country to that event, from around the globe. And then the Industrial Asset Management Council, IAMC, Spring Forum. We attended that. That is also an international conference for site selectors. The Director of Talent participated in multiple recruiting events to support OKC Fame. OKC Fame is an apprenticeship program in which it's partnered with OSU OKC and a number of employers in the area to offer employment opportunities and training for advanced manufacturing technicians. The Chamber continues to partner with the Alliance for Economic Development to create, fund, and launch multiple ARPA programs in diverse communities. ICSC Oklahoma, the Oklahoma chapter, hosted an event at Oak over by Penn Square Mall that brought real estate professionals from across the state for presentations on Oklahoma's playbook of reinventing retail. We had over 100 attendees and included a tour of Oconee in that event. Site visit took place with a new-to-market grocery tenant evaluating Oklahoma City for a future location. And then we did release our 2025 Greater Oklahoma City Economic Forecast this past quarter in cooperation with Russell Evans. And with that, I can happy to take any questions you might have.
Any questions? Comments? No? Thank you very much.
you.
We appreciate it. We'll go ahead and take a motion and a second, which we have. And the item passes. Brings us to item 5, the General Manager's Report. Ms. Boggs?
Good afternoon. I'm happy to take questions if you have any.
Nope, thank you very much. All right, any comments from staff?
Yes, if I may. I'm not going to be here for the June 17th meeting, and so I wanted to take an opportunity to let you guys know that Sarah is leaving us. And I wanted to publicly thank her for everything she's done for our program. The Oracle transition has been a real challenge for us, and she has done amazing in helping us get some reports built and do things like that. And so I'm going to miss her a lot. I know all of us are going to miss her a lot, me particularly. So anyway, I just wanted to publicly tell her thank you.
Thank you very much. So when are you leaving?
I'll talk, even though we're both teary. June 30th will be her last day, but she's going to stay and help us train her replacement, hopefully,
Okay.
is the plan. So she'll do
Good.
some part-time work after that.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Any comments from trustees?
I was just going to say thank you so much for all your service, and we wish you all the best.
We'll see you next month, so, yeah. We'll come up with a to-do list, help you hang out. All right, any citizens signed up to speak? No, all right. With that, brings us to item 7. We're adjourned.
Thank you.